I still remember being a kid, going to the skate park for like minimum 12 hours a day, with barely eating, getting hurt constantly, and trying to learn how to bar spin or just struggling to do a full cab. And as I got older, I started to have less and less time every single day to debate with my friends that a free coaster is better. Responsibilities started to get to me, and I started distancing myself from that world to pursue other things like college or work in general. And even though I haven't ridden a BMX bike in like 2 or 3 years, and I haven't really landed a hard trick in like 4, I still sometimes go back and reminisce about the good times. And recently, I just noticed that the BMX community just started losing popularity, or people just started to lose interest in the sport. So, what got me in the sport and what happened to it? The year is 2006, and Adam Mason became the founder of the BMX forum, the Come Up BMX. And to say that it was a big success is an understatement. Adam22, a high school dropout who made ends meet by living an illegitimate way, one day made 1.5k by advertising a gig on his website. But this was only the beginning, with Adam22 having no idea what's in store for him. Around 6 years later, Awesome Shit was created, one of the most viral BMX street brands at the time. Adam came up with the idea of living with multiple BMX riders in a house, sponsoring them with money, food, and a place to stay in exchange for them promoting his brand. Most of his BMX edits that he released were doing pretty good, but little did he know, he was about to create one of the most memorable BMX street moments. On May 22nd, 2014, Stevie Churchill released his OSS BMX part, and the video was about to make him one of the most legendary BMX riders during that decade. And this was also around the time that I gained interest in the sport. He was landing the most crazy combos with ease, and the music choice wasn't really being the standard, which made it really unique compared to other BMX edits. And if a 360 weave down a 14 stair did not shock you, what came next should. He was successful in landing a truck driver down the most famous set of stairs, El Toro. And that day, Stevie was with another rider named Brandon Began, and he said if Stevie was able to land the truck driver down the stair set, that he would try to half cab it.
And Began had kind of mentioned that he might want to half cab it, but not in any sort of seriousness.
It was like the biggest thing I had half cab before I tried El Toro was I think a 12.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of just like one night, we said, we were just drunk, I was just bullshitting. I was like, yeah, Stevie's gonna truck El Toro, I'll half cab it. I was like, and then it came down to it, and I got there the next day, I was like, shit, I don't know if Stevie did it, and when's the next time I'm gonna be here? I might as well give it a shot.
So after Stevie actually did land the truck, Began attempted to do the trick and he slipped out. But what came next made the community go crazy. Just 3 days before Stevie, Brandon Began OSS video was released. In the first clip, he was seen faceplanting the most famous 20 stair in the community, and this was the most viral clip at the time. Everybody was talking about Brandon Began and his unique style of riding. I mean, you had kids all over the world destroying their front rims just because they saw Brandon Began landing like this and thought it looked cool. And a lot of people started listening to the same type of music that the two edits had. You had countless kids swearing that Bones or Xavier Wolf were the greatest artists of all time. And if you disagreed, they would say you can't possibly understand it. Around this time, a lot of other riders became viral, like Alfredo Manguso, Mikey Tyra, etc. And Adam22 also appeared on the news after pulling a viral stunt of bunny hopping over homeless people.
An outrage tonight over a viral video that was posted on Facebook of a professional bike rider or two actually using homeless people as props in the video. NBC4's.
Even though nobody got hurt, it's right on the line of, being messed up, and so that was kind of a concern for me.
Time passed really fast, and it seemed like it was going great, with Awesome Shit getting bigger and bigger and making a lot of kids pick up the sport. But then a few issues occurred. Stevie Churchill and Brandon Began seemed like they started fading out of the videos, with Stevie completely disappearing at one point. And this wasn't really the biggest issue because there were a lot of other riders making waves back then. But you could feel those two weren't present in the community back then. But then the biggest issue came up. The Awesome Shit store mainly had people from the BMX community working there, and it was a BMX related place. But in 2015, Adam was working on a passion project in the back of the store. It was an underground rap podcast called No Jumper. And you might think, what's wrong with starting a podcast, right? Well, let's trace it back to the beginning. No Jumper was first supposed to be a rap blog, and Adam was just financing it, but the project failed. But Adam actually loves the underground scene, and he invited Xavier Wolf for a podcast, and he posted it on the Awesome Shit channel. and the video was doing way better than any other BMX related video at the time. That made him realize that there was an interest that people had in the underground rap scene, and they wanted to have that feeling of connecting with an artist by listening to something like a podcast. So that's how the No Jumper YouTube channel was created. And he hit milestone after milestone, getting more and more popular in the underground rap scene. And he slowly distanced himself from the BMX one, with the Come On BMX blog eventually being shut down and the OSS physical store closing too. Adam22 eventually, as year passed, had over a dozen viral moments while on the podcast. But he fell soon into a controversy while he was accused of SA by 2 different women, and he started to transition the podcast to a more adult show version. And people in the BMX community started to hate him. They started to calling him a leech, a sellout, and a lot of other bad things. And that was about the end of the era. But you can already notice that it had an impact on the BMX scene, and by the time BMX was at all-time high, there were other countless YouTubers consistently pulling hundreds of thousands of views every video, such as Anthony Panza, Bill Perry, Scotty Kramer, and etc. But then the events of 2020 hit, and you would think that people being stuck inside would make the sport less popular. Well, it didn't. People craved to go outside, and everyone wanted a BMX, and the stock bikes and the parts were hella expensive and out of stock everywhere. So people started going to the secondhand market and buying bikes or parts there. But the secondhand market wasn't great either. You would buy a used bike for the same price you would get a new one. The demand was super high, so companies started mass producing. And you have to keep in mind that the materials and shipping costs were higher back then because of the pandemic. And by the time new shipments came on the market, people started to lose interest. And you noticed, if you look at the bike prices right after that happened, they were going for like nothing. There were sales all over the place for BMX bikes, and you can get one for really cheap. Because companies tried to get rid of the stock that they actually got because they produced too many items. And back then you noticed that people weren't really interested in BMX, with even some of the most influential content creators leaving the scene to pursue other interests. And this was also around the time I started losing interest, as I started having less time. And you have to keep in mind that people use the internet a lot more, and they discover new hobbies like playing games or something like that, or content creation. It's not like the old generation when all you could do is go outside and play when you needed a dopamine hit. Now you can just launch up Marvel Rivals and don't even notice time passing by. Do I think the sport is dead? Not really. It's just that it's really dry right now. The interest is low, but this does not mean that it died. I also believe that nothing major has happened recently, except maybe people like cutting their bikes in half or something. There's no reason to talk about BMX. It's always been like a close-knit community. I mean, it hasn't really been like bigger than scooter riding or skateboarding. Anyway, what's your opinion on BMX? Do you got any thoughts? Leave them in the comments if you do. And I would appreciate it if you left a like and subscribe on the channel. See you on the next one.